The year is 1914. Europe stands on the precipice of a conflict so vast, so devastating, that it will come to be known as the Great War. This war, later called World War I, would engulf the globe in a whirlwind of violence, forever altering the course of human history. From the trenches of Europe to the far-flung corners of the world, the reverberations of this conflict would be felt for generations to come. Millions of soldiers would march to the front lines, their young lives forever changed by the horrors they would witness. New technologies of war emerged, unleashing unprecedented levels of destruction upon the battlefields. The world would never be the same. To understand the Great War, we must first delve into the intricate web of tensions that preceded it. Europe in the early 20th century was a tinderbox of competing ambitions, fueled by a dangerous cocktail of militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. Militarism, the belief in the paramount importance of military strength, had gripped the great powers of Europe. Nations engaged in a relentless arms race, stockpiling weapons and expanding their armies and navies in a bid for supremacy. This militarization created an atmosphere of suspicion and fear, where even the slightest provocation could have disastrous consequences. A complex network of alliances further exacerbated the tensions. These agreements, often forged in secrecy, obligated nations to defend their allies in the event of an attack. What might have remained a localized conflict could quickly escalate into a continental war, as nations were drawn into the conflict by their treaty obligations. Nationalism, the intense pride in one's nation and culture, further fueled the flames of war. This potent force, while capable of uniting people, also had the power to divide them, fostering animosity and suspicion between different ethnic and national groups. The powder keg of Europe, so long primed for conflict, finally exploded on June 28, 1914. On that fateful day, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were assassinated in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. The assassin, Gavrilo Princip, was a Serbian nationalist driven by the desire for a unified Serbian state. Austria-Hungary, outraged by the assassination, blamed Serbia and issued an ultimatum containing a series of harsh demands. Serbia, fearing war, agreed to most of the demands but refused some, arguing they violated its sovereignty. Austria-Hungary, unsatisfied, declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. Russia, bound by treaty to protect Serbia, mobilized its army. Germany, allied with Austria-Hungary, viewed Russia's mobilization as a threat and declared war on Russia on August 1, 1914. France, allied with Russia, was drawn into the conflict when Germany declared war on August 3. Great Britain, outraged by Germany's violation of Belgian neutrality, declared war on Germany on August 4, 1914. Section 4. A new kind of war: trench warfare and technological advancements. The early months of the war saw a flurry of movement as armies clashed in open battle. However, on the Western Front, the conflict soon bogged down into a brutal stalemate. Both sides dug extensive trench systems, stretching for hundreds of miles across France and Belgium. Trench warfare came to define the Western Front, a grim and attritional struggle characterized by mud, rats, disease, and unimaginable violence. Soldiers on both sides endured horrific conditions, living in cramped, unsanitary trenches, constantly exposed to enemy fire and the elements. Machine guns, capable of firing hundreds of rounds per minute, transformed the battlefield, mowing down soldiers by the thousands. Artillery, more powerful and accurate than ever before, rained down death and destruction upon enemy trenches. Poison gas, first used by the Germans in 1915, added a new dimension of horror to the war. Section 5. Shifting tides. The United States enters the fray. The United States, initially neutral, watched the war in Europe with a mixture of fascination and horror. However, a series of events gradually drew the US closer to the Allied cause. German submarine warfare, which targeted civilian ships as well as military vessels, angered the American public. The sinking of the Lusitania, a British passenger liner torpedoed by a German U-boat in 1915, claimed the lives of over 1,000 people, including 128 Americans. This tragedy, widely condemned as an act of barbarity, inflamed anti-German sentiment in the United States. The Zimmermann telegram, intercepted and decoded by British intelligence, further fueled American anger towards Germany. This secret diplomatic cable proposed a German-Mexican alliance against the United States. On April 6, 1917, the United States Congress voted to declare war on Germany. Section 6. Revolution and Armistice. Russia's exit and the end of fighting. While the Western Front remained locked in a bloody stalemate, the Eastern Front witnessed dramatic upheavals. Russia, plagued by internal strife and military setbacks, experienced a revolution in 1917 that would have far-reaching consequences for the war and the world. The Bolsheviks, a radical communist faction led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power in Russia in November 1917. Determined to extricate Russia from the war, the Bolsheviks signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Germany in March 1918. Germany, freed from the burden of fighting a two-front war, launched a massive offensive on the Western Front in the spring of 1918. The German offensive, initially successful, was ultimately repelled by Allied forces, bolstered by the arrival of fresh American troops. By the fall of 1918, Germany, exhausted and facing defeat, sued for peace. Section 7. The war's enduring legacy, a world forever changed. World War I, the war to end all wars, ended not in victory, but in a fragile peace. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war, but sowed the seeds of future conflict. The treaty, which blamed Germany for the war and imposed harsh reparations, created resentment and instability in Germany. The war left an indelible mark on the world, reshaping political boundaries, toppling empires, and ushering in an era of uncertainty. The Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, Russian, and German empires collapsed, replaced by new nations and ideologies. The war's human cost was staggering. Over 16 million people perished in the conflict, including soldiers and civilians. The war's legacy extended far beyond the battlefield, transforming societies, economies, and the global balance of power. It is our duty to remember the sacrifices made, learn from the mistakes of the past, and strive for a future where peace, not war, defines our world.